homelessness. So anyway, let's take a look at this first chart here. And I don't know if we have the cover. Anyway, there's this report, and I'm going to show you the cover report. I think it's next image. I think. There it is. So every year, your government, my government, puts out in the United States the annual homelessness assessment report, AHAR it's called, to Congress. And they put it out December of each year. Well, the 2023 report just came out. There's been a lot of headlines, and we'll see pictures of something happen in this one little area of a city. And a lot of people who are sitting maybe in Indianapolis are saying, is that all of San Francisco? Is San Francisco all like that? Is Austin all like that? Is Jacksonville all like that? Is New York all like that? Or these are just little parts of the city trying to make us think everything is just absolutely horrible and crappy and things are going on. So this report comes out from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. So HUD puts out the report and you can dive through it. So the first thing we want to do is, what do we have in the news? We're having elections right now. And during these elections, there's a lot of debate that goes back and forth. You know, Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis, neither of whom are presidential candidates. And now DeSantis has officially dropped out, so he's not even a primary candidate. Neither of them are running for the presidency right now, although Gavin Newsom, wink, wink, appears to be kind of doing that. Remember, they had their debate in California this, Florida this, California this, Florida this, and then DeSantis pulls up that map of where all the poop was in San Francisco, literally a poop map to tell you where you shouldn't be, what streets you shouldn't go down, where the city's going to be going to clean, if they even bother to do that. Anyway, so this comes out, and it tells you in absolute facts what the homeless situation is, and they do this once a year. Now, why didn't they make a big thing of it? Why didn't they really say, hey, here's the report, and why didn't get a lot of coverage on media? Because I'm going to show you why the mainstream media didn't want to talk about it, and it's pretty clear. So let's go. We've got a chart here that shows the big three states: California, Florida, Texas. Florida has more electoral votes now than New York, so these are the big three states. So we got some charts for those three, and we're going to pop them up right now and take a look. Florida, Texas, and California. And we're going to take a look. Here we go. Let's start with California. So here's the report on California. Again, this is 2023, a report that was made in December, 4 weeks ago, because we're sitting here toward the end of January 2024 is when we're sitting here this particular podcast. So 46 out of every 10,000 people were homeless in California. 68% of those are on the street in sleeping bags. And homeless, sometimes you may be in temporary shelters. Red Cross will do that. A church may do that. A soup kitchen may do that. They may have a warehouse where you see them put up little cots to help people when it's raining, just trying to do anything to help some of the homeless population. You get it. But 68% of them in California ain't got nothing, you know, and 46 out of 10,000. And by the way, this homelessness problem is up 30% from 2007. Can you believe that? And saying that there's almost 200,000 people, 181,000 homeless in California. So now these are facts that maybe candidates or governors or politicians or the news media that's trying to protect Gavin Newsom or do those things don't want to talk about. They want to say Florida this, California that. Okay. Well, let's go look at the next state. Let's go pop the next one up here. Florida. Wait a minute. 14 out of every 10,000 homeless and 50% of them have zero shelter? Wait a minute. California was 46. This is 14. Wait a minute. That means that California's homelessness per 10,000 people is 4 times worse than California. These are just the stats. I'm not favoring one or the other. This is HUD, Housing and Urban Development, putting out a report that they send to Congress every year in December, and they release this and don't say much about it in December. I wonder why, because look, this doesn't fit the national narrative and mainstream media that's been, largely supporting Gavin Newsom. Florida's homeless problem is 1/4 statistically what California, or California's is 4 times Florida, and California's had increased 30% from 07. Florida's, wait, down 36% from 2007. So the problem in Florida is 36% better, and it's 1/4 the statistical problem is in California. Isn't that interesting? Al Gore once wrote this book that was lecturing all of us about the environment called An Inconvenient Truth. Well, you know what? Maybe for Gavin Newsom, this is an inconvenient truth. Look at this stuff. Very interesting. Well, there's also another state that's in the mix where a lot of migration has come from California to Texas, a ton of migration. How does Texas compare in all this? Let's go take a look. Only 9 out of 10,000 people were homeless and 42% have no shelter. Isn't that interesting? So 46% in California. So California, when Gavin Newsom would have arguments with Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, and before that you had governors of California that were sparring with Rick, the governor of Texas at that time. Well, check this out. Texas homelessness problem is down 31% since 2007. So in 15 years, Florida's homeless problem is down 36%. 15 years, Texas problem down 31%. And over 15 years, California's problem is up 30%. And it's 5 times worse in Texas and 4 times worse than Florida. Isn't that interesting? There's the truth of what bad policy and bad leadership has got you in California in terms of homelessness. Well, wait a minute, Tom. There's all these people coming from Mexico. Yeah, have you seen where they're coming from? They're coming across Eagle Pass there in Texas. Yes, they're coming across to San Diego, but San Diego has a relatively tight border there at Tijuana, San Diego. I've been through there, I've seen there. It's much tighter and different than it is in Arizona and Texas. And look at this. Look at this. Very interesting stuff. And the total homeless in Texas, 27,000. 180,000 of them in California. So in real numbers, it's almost 9 times worse. Holy crap. That's amazing. So now, I just accused California leadership of it. Let's go take a look at leadership across these United States. So here's a bunch of pink bars. Let's go look at the pink bar charts here about the states and their homelessness. Here we go. We're going to pop it up here. Interesting. The state with the worst homelessness problem is actually not a state. They want to make it a state, but it's a District of Columbia. 65 people per 10,000 are homeless. In the shadow of the capital of this country, homelessness is 50% worse than that, than the worst other state in second place, which is California. Interesting. Blue state. Third place, Vermont. Blue. Fourth place, Oregon. Blue. Fifth place, Hawaii. Blue. Sixth place, New York. Blue. Seventh place, Washington. Blue. Eighth place, Maine. Blue. Ninth place, Alaska. Red. The first red state doesn't come up until 9th. And then 10th, Nevada. Blue. 11th, Delaware. Blue. 12th, Massachusetts. Blue. 13th, Arizona. Red. 15th, Colorado. Blue. And Arizona's homeless problem has not been helped by the unbridled illegal immigration that's just streaming, refugees and migrants, streaming across the border. So this is what bad leadership gets you. This is what bad leadership gets you. Where is it best in the United States? Well, guess what? Mississippi is best, number 50 in homelessness. So Mississippi is best. South Carolina is next, then Illinois. But I'm going to tell you something about homelessness in Illinois. The largest city in Illinois is Chicago. And it is a fact that in Chicago, it is a worse and tougher winter than New York. And I called and I asked somebody, I said, how much tougher is the winter in Illinois? And they said that they have twice the city resources than New York. Chicago has twice the city resources in New York to help people when the winter freeze comes. Because when the winter freeze comes, people risk in Illinois of freezing to death. Because you look at the temperatures in Chicago versus in New York, and New York will get a break in the freezes back to 40s, whereas Chicago quite often is frozen all winter. And so if there are homelessness on the street in Chicago, when that wind is blowing off the lake and it's -5 degrees, those people will freeze to death. And so a lot of times The homeless in Chicago, they come south and they avoid it, making Illinois' homeless problem worse. But hats off, credit to the resources that are in Chicago and Illinois trying to protect the people who lack shelter so they can be somewhere. Then next, Alabama, Virginia, Iowa, West Virginia, North Dakota, Indiana, Arkansas. The next blue state is Connecticut. Hats off to Connecticut in having only 8 people per 10,000 homeless. And they are very, very close to what Texas has at 8.1. So there are a couple blue states in there, Illinois and Connecticut, that seem to do a good job. Why does Connecticut is up there in the best 10, and Massachusetts, right next door, is in the worst 15? Don't know. Can't figure it out. But it's all about leadership, folks. It's all about leadership. You know, you take a look at the leadership of the state and what can you do to help the economy of your state so that people have jobs and affordable housing. Homelessness comes down to jobs and affordable housing. And yeah, I know you're going to lecture me. There's always going to be some people homeless, and those are the people that are mentally ill or have chronic drug addiction or whatever it is. Yes, yes, and yes, and they need help too. And we got to figure out what we do about them as a society. But you just have to look at California and how it's 5 times worse than Texas, 4 times worse than Florida, and even at Illinois at 7 is 7 times worse than Illinois. It's about leadership and about what we do versus the lip service we give and a slick politician that goes and does interviews and talks about stuff. You know what? That's what it's all about. So this is the truth, and this is a report. You can go get this at the HUD website and check it out for yourself. There's a ton of information in there that tells you about the truth of homelessness in America. It comes out every year. And because the blue states did so stinking bad, they snuck this thing out at December and were real quiet about it. But it's available for you and me, information from our government. This isn't from some conservative news source or some other like that. It's available.